I call this meeting of the Davenport Community School District Board of Directors to order. Director Hayes, would you please read our board priorities?
I'll be happy to. The Davenport School Board establishes the following priorities to ensure the academic success of all students, provide leadership and direction to improve the overall learning environment in our classrooms, schools, and district, including the health, safety, security, and happiness of students and staff, to direct and support action programs and activities which reduce the impact of poverty on our students, their families, and our community.
Thank you very much. Director DeSalvo, would you please read our mission and vision statements?
I'm happy to. Our mission statement is that we will enhance each student's abilities by providing a quality education enriched by our diverse community. Our vision statement, education that challenges conventional thinking, prepares all students to compete in a global society, and inspires our students, parents, staff, and community to answer the question, what if?
Thank you very much. Before we get started with our showcase, I wanted to note that Director Mayfield is ill and will not be attending tonight's meeting, and Director Beck and Director Gosa are participating by phone. And you two are both on the phone, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Move on to the showcase, Superintendent Tate.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have Monroe Elementary, Ben Driscoll. Thank you for being here.
I brought along the brains of the operation down at Monroe. So I'd like to start by introducing Miss Karen Sego, and she is a lead teacher at Monroe. Miss Kim Holliday, and Mrs. Holliday is a teacher and also a model teacher at Monroe. And Miss Cartwright is a special education teacher. And I recognize, understand, and respect that we are limited time, so we're going to try and go ahead and get started. I'm really excited today. Anytime that I get a microphone, I talk too long. But I'm excited when we get to talk about some of the things we're doing. And we've put a lot of time and effort into just deciding what it is that we wanted to share with the board. And so today what we want to do, I have a couple intended outcomes. The first one is that the board members will understand how Monroe Elementary School is meeting the key considerations within the teaching and learning plan, specifically instructional practices, through what we want to highlight today and showcase, the Monroe Rubric Fair. And that's what these teachers are going to kind of help you understand. Second intended outcome is that board members will understand the structure of this thing I am referring to, called the Rubric Fair, and also that the board members will understand the value of the Rubric Fair from the perspective of a new teacher, a veteran teacher, and a model teacher. So, in the interest of time, I am going to go through this rather quickly. This is the Davenport Teaching and Learning Plan, as I'm sure that you are in a variety of ways aware of and familiar with. But there's four key components to the Davenport Teaching and Learning Plan, beginning with MTSS, and these are those key considerations, and I'm not going to take the time to even talk about them or read them to you, but within each of those four pillars of our Teaching and Learning Plan, there are key considerations, and those are the ones for the MTSS, the Multi-Tiered Systems of Supports. The second component of the Teaching and Learning Plan is standards-based assessment and reporting, and again, there are key considerations laid out by the leadership of the district leadership within standards-based assessment and reporting. The next area, or the next pillar of the Teaching and Learning Plan, would be the Davenport Way. And within the Davenport Way, the key considerations are listed here. And again, I know I'm going quickly, but it's because the power of our showcase is not in this, but rather in what our teachers are going to share with you. And then the final, and where we really want to focus on today, is instructional practices. Within the Teaching and Learning Plan, in the instructional practices, and now I'll slow down just a bit, the key considerations as laid out by our district leadership is that professional development occurs around the NIET rubric district focus area for the year. So we want to make sure that's happening in that pillar. We want to make sure that teacher leaders work directly with classroom teachers to improve instructional practices. And again, I want to show you how we're fulfilling that through our rubric fair. And then the third one is that technology is used to enhance student engagement and increase student achievement. So Let's dig just a little bit deeper into that pillar, instructional practices. So, the National Institute for Excellence in Teaching, or the NIET rubric. There are, again, we're just going to do a little bit of a tutorial here. There are what we are known as domains. So there's an instructional domain, an environmental domain, planning, and professionalism. So this is excellence in teaching as listed in 4 domains. Within those 4 domains, there are things called indicators. So there are, as you see, 12 indicators of what excellence in teaching in the area of instruction would look like. And then there's the same with environment, planning, and professionalism. Then if you, within each indicator, there are key descriptors. So maybe at a time gone by, you could walk into a room and say, I don't know what good teaching looks like, but I know when I see it. I don't really know how to describe it, but we'll know it when we see it. Well, that's just probably not good enough. Not in today's world of accountability and whatnot. So I'm going to dig deeper into, we got a little bit of a, let's see here. Try not to, here we go. All right. So within any one of those descriptors, indicators, then there are descriptors. And these are ones where it says things like oral and written feedback is consistently academically focused, frequent, and of high quality. So we can, and our leadership has been really trained to go in and say, and this is what is happening when it's at expectations, and this is when it's beyond expectations. So that is, and those are the descriptors within any one of those indicators, and the rubric is pretty intensive. It's pretty involved. All right. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Siegel, because we took that teaching and learning plan, we took that NIET rubric, and we said, how do we really get that first key consideration? Professional development is provided for teachers ongoing to improve instruction in the classroom. How can we do that in a way that's engaging, meaningful, and powerful for our teachers? And so that's where the rubric fair was born, and that's where I'll introduce Ms. Siegel.
Hello, I am Karen Siegel, a lead teacher at Monroe, and I wrote down all these little pretty things about our rubric fair, but I feel like the pride I feel in what we've done will speak for itself. At Monroe, we took a very hefty document, the NIET rubric, and we wanted to make it hands-on, applicable, and something that teachers could walk away with the very next day, go into their classrooms, and improve and change their instruction. The way that we did, and I was lucky enough to get to help facilitate a lot of this, and this year we had 3 rubric fairs for our extended days, and they were questioning, and they're up here questioning, expectations, assessment, and we also threw in their teacher content knowledge. And we at Monroe have 10 model teachers. That is like pretty amazing. And so our model teachers, very willingly, signed up to present 2 of our 3 rubric fairs. They would pick the areas that they felt, I got something to share. I have something that can help make the instruction at our school, better. So they would choose their 2, and we had one and I'm trying to remember, October, December, and February. So we had a little time in between. And I would meet with them originally and just kind of get them thinking. Here's what we're working on, questioning. Here's kind of what it looks like through the rubric. And a lot of times we'd have people right away, boom, I know what I want to do. Other times it would just take questioning, and they'd realize, I have something really good to share with our staff. And then we would invite them to our BSAT meeting. And this was really an amazing part of our planning, because they would come in with a good idea, and with the collaboration of our BSAT members, they would walk out with an amazing idea. You know what I mean? Everyone just kind of throwing out little pieces here and there, and you could see their confidence build. And we knew that when it came time for this, that we had 6 to 7 presentations that were going to change instruction. As you can see, assessment was one of them, and some of our different breakout sessions, a tale of how a teammate was brought to the dark side of technology integration. We tried to make this really engaging. I mean, we had amazing treats for the staff. We had time for people to kind of talk and chat and collaborate. It was an engaging situation. Look back by popular demand, standards-based reporting made simple. This was a teacher who did this breakout session the previous rubric fair, and we filled it with so many people still wanting to get in. We brought it back again, and it was just someone that figured out how to grade report cards in a very, using her time wisely, making sure she got the job done, and not being totally stressed out afterward. From overwhelmed to I can do that. And this was a teacher that just step-by-step strategies, to help planning assessment. We had one teacher during our assessment rubric fair that took it a whole different way. She's one of our behavior teachers. And assessment is academically based, but we also have behaviors. And she figured out how to use her breakout session to show how she looked at kids that had trauma situations and behavior, and how she used assessment to guide her instruction based on behavioral issues. So we would have each of our teachers at each rubric fair would go to 3. We would combine, they got to take a survey, they got to rank what they wanted to go to, and then Mr. Driscoll and I would sit down, and almost always they got their choices. 9 times out of 10 they did. They would go to these sessions, and it wasn't just a teacher talking, usually. It was collaboration. Somebody might get the ball rolling talking about, the model teacher talking about what their topic was, and then hands would go up. And people, I do this and I do it this way. Or, wow, could you tell me more about this? So it wasn't just someone stand up and speak to a group. It was collaboration at its best. Afterwards, we would go back into our library. We would meet, and Mr. Driscoll, as techie as he is, he would have a way for us to take a little survey, and it would be bombarded with comments from the teachers that went to these rubric fairs about their takeaways. What our biggest thing is what can you walk away with and put into practice? We don't want you just to sit and, learn. We want to know, what are you going to do? How are you going to put it into practice? So we've had other schools join us. We've had people inquiring. It's exciting, it's innovative, it's creative, and it is really working. Thank you.
So I started by sharing our intended outcomes. And the last outcome that I wanted to share is give you guys a chance to hear from a second-year teacher. Ms. Cartwright has been teaching for 2 years now. And what kind of impact does this have? We can do snacks all day and make fun little presentations, but if it's not impacting our teachers, is it really valuable? So I want you to be able to hear from a new teacher. And also Ms. Holliday's been teaching for a little while. I didn't put how many years, I just said a little while. And so what kind of impact does that have on a veteran dog? Not an old dog, a veteran dog. So how about Ms. Cartwright? We'll start with Ms. Cartwright.
Good evening. As Mr. Driscoll said, I'm Kimber Cartwright. This is my second year of teaching special education for Davenport Schools. And the rubric fair to me is a huge and essential component to adding tools and resources to my teacher toolbox. The most effective way I feel for teachers in general to learn is from their peers and through that collaboration piece. There are 3 sessions that kind of really stuck with me that I've been able to implement daily in my classroom. One of those was our second grade teacher, Ms. Heacock, did a gradual release model where we do the I do, we do, you do, and it's really helped me give my students that sense of independence, especially with 5th graders that are heading off to middle school. They've really taken hold of that, and they've been really successful. Another one was actually Miss Holliday presented on the Wonders Online, our reading curriculum, and she just broke it down, and there are so many wonderful components on there that I didn't even know existed, and it's really nice to see those differentiation pieces that I need for special education, and that's been really helpful for me in meeting my students where they are, but then also challenging them to push them that much further. And then there was a session Miss Hushek did on writing journals, and I implemented that the very next day in my classroom, and my students' writing has taken off. I've added a piece where I give them feedback, and we kind of get a little conversation going, and we keep growing on that writing piece, and their writing has really taken off, which is really exciting because at the beginning of the year, I was lucky if they could write 3 or 4 words, and now they're writing beautiful stories, and they're so excited to share them. So, yeah, I'm just really excited with what the Rubric Fair has shown me, and just the piece that we really do learn a lot from our peers, and that collaboration is really, really important. Thank you.
And I want to just reiterate what Ms. Cartwright's saying. Just the power from learning from your peers is so strong. And we see that time and again in other industries, whether it's an apprenticeship or a student teaching, whatever it is. And so I really think she captured that well. And then Ms. Holliday, and she could maybe talk as a presenter and as a participant.
Hi, I'm Kim Holliday. I've been teaching second grade for, I think, 14 years, and then this past fall have switched over to behavior disorders. As a veteran teacher and a model teacher, I think it's really important that we work smarter, not harder, and this allows us as models to kind of present to our colleagues. So then at the end of the day, we can all collaborate with one another anytime. Before it was just kind of closed door, you do whatever you do in your classroom. Now it's opened the doors for everyone to see and everyone to kind of embrace each other's styles and then having us learn from each other's styles. As a veteran teacher, I got the opportunity to also view some of my fellow coworkers and maybe ideas that I know work that have just, that I haven't tried in a while. It just kind of reiterates the fact that they're really important to put them back in place. It's just constantly just learning from each other, and it's just a breath of fresh air every time you get a new idea or strategy. As a model teacher, it's really opened the door for my own leadership. I started doing this the very first Rubric Fair we've had, and I've done all of them except for this last one that I got to attend. Each time it caused me to self-reflect on my practices and really kind of think, what makes this valuable? And also self-reflection, what can I do to make this better? So that helps a lot. But as a leader now, going through and reflecting on my presentations, I am near and dear to trauma and trauma-informed care and all of that, and I have now taken that and what I've learned and what I've implemented, and now I am presenting with a professor from Western Illinois University, and we go to conferences and present together. So that has really opened up a door for me in my leadership. So it's valuable. We're using our own teachers to teach each other, and I think this district has it right with this practice in place.
I would open it up to any questions or from the board.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody? Director DeSalvo.
So is this just your teachers in your building only, right?
Currently.
Okay, I was going to say, have you thought about expanding? Because it sounds
We've
like it's very
invited,
powerful.
we've invited individual guests, whether it's district leadership. The lead teachers invited their other lead teachers because kind of word gets out. And so I know Ms. Siegel hosted some lead teachers from other buildings, and they came. And then I'm working very closely with the principal from Adams, serving as her mentor during her first year. And she was asking questions, and I said, why don't you guys just all come down? So the entire Adams staff came down and joined us on our last one, because it is something that is replicable. It's not something that we hold a monopoly on by any means.
It sounds like it's very, very successful, and I think it's very powerful when you can learn from someone else that's right there with you every day. So thank you. I think it's a great program.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Director Potts.
It's a hallmark of what the TLC program is supposed to do. It's supposed to nurture teacher leaders to help other teachers. And I think sometimes we forget that we hire new people, and they're really good. We interview them and they're really good, and they get in the classroom and it's like,
Whoa.
and having that, being able to get that feedback from experienced teachers and filling up your bag of tricks is crucial to their success and then to the student's success and to the school's success.
I agree, well said. I want to highlight, Ms. Siegel just kind of talked about how it was done, but she has played such an integral role in this. In fact, the entire BSAT has. This started with just kind of an idea and just leadership, sharing ideas and collaborating together, and it's grown from there. This has been really, it models what this is. We learn from each other on how to facilitate it, and then they're learning from each other right there.
Director Hayes.
I was wondering, Kim, if you could talk a little bit more about that trauma part. With everything that's going on now, that sounds very interesting and needed.
Yes, absolutely. Working at Monroe, we have a very diverse population. A lot of our kids are very needy. They come to school without their basic needs being met. So as teachers, it's just kind of like, what do? You know, we need to get to the education, but our kids haven't even eaten. They're not fed. They're not clothed. They're not bathed. They have so many other needs. So just kind of teaching the teachers what we need to meet for them first coming in the classroom in order for them to succeed academically. And I present a lot on like resiliency skills. How can we get these kids adjusted and how they can start self-coping appropriately instead of kind of lashing out with anger and violence.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you very much,
Thank you.
all of you. Thank you. We'll move on to student board reports. Superintendent Tate.
Thank you. This is West High Student Night, so have at it, guys.
So at West, we have the Pennies for Patients campaign just concluded, and we had raised over $1,000 for leukemia and lymphoma. Over the weekend, our robotics teams completed in Kansas City and did well. Our show choir placed second in the competition on Saturday. And track, golf, and tennis have started. And yeah.
Moving on, our girls, we had a girls' cybersecurity competition, which is the first time that West has ever done something like this. So this was a very exciting time for all of that. We had 2 teams of 2 girls, which was our first team was Rebecca Cassad and Serafina Kapanen. They placed second out of 100 teams in the state and were ranked 38th nationally. And our next team, Caitlin Bauer and Grace Shipley, placed 5th in the state out of 100 teams. So for our first time, we did exceptionally well. And because of their achievements, the West Computer Science program actually received a $500 grant. So this is a very, very good time for us. And our spring musical, Oklahoma, is coming along quite well. And our students are preparing for the show, which will premiere the 6th of April. And we also have 2 shows on the 7th. So if you are interested, go ahead and come out.
And finals are coming up, and our students are super excited for spring break. Both the West High Concert Band and the Jazz Band are going to participate in Orlando Fest. They're traveling to Orlando, performing multiple sections for experienced judges and instructors down in Florida this Saturday. And the band will leave early Thursday morning, officially arriving in Florida early Friday. And finally, school safety has been a topic of debate recently, and student-led walkouts are a discussion item for tonight, as well as I'm sure there will be speeches during open forum on this topic. And rightly so, because tomorrow at 10 a.m., students at West and at schools across the country will be walking out of class to take a stand for school safety and security, and their advocacy and action deserve our recognition. And that concludes the student board report.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to board reports. Are there any? Director DeSalvo.
First, I'll start off with our sympathies to the family of Jerry Grady. Jerry was actually my teacher, that's a long time ago, at Williams Junior High. He taught the Davenport schools, from what I can see, from 1964 until 1993, so our sympathies to his family. And we were just talking, we believe his brother was also a teacher, too. Attended the legislative forum a week ago Saturday. It was, there's a lot of us there. I think all of us were there. And Madison was there as well. It was definitely an interesting forum with our legislators. There was a lot of discussion about safety, a lot of discussion about budgets, and a lot of discussion about tax proposals. So there's a lot going on at the legislative level right now. We're not out of session yet, and there's a lot of movement happening right now. So it was a very interesting session. I would also like to comment that we did get our Senate File 455 passed, if you didn't catch me in the news about 1 million times last week. Very grateful for the media that was there to cover that. We had the honor of having the governor here to sign the bill in Davenport, a very significant event for us, a very big start in the right direction, but we still have our work cut out for us. So we do appreciate what our legislators have done, and we will continue to work with them to get us to where we need to be with all the other schools and districts in the state of Iowa. And I think that's all I have for tonight.
All right, thank you. Any other board reports? All right, I've got one. There's an event that I did not attend this past week, but I heard a lot about it. And this is the Watershed Expo that was presented by students of North in partnership with the city's Public Works Department. And the way I heard about it was from Rob Ewalt, who's on the board of the Iowa Soybean Association, who was in attendance there with Mike Postian, who is representing the Scott County Farm Bureau. And the reason this is so significant is they were talking about what's going on with watersheds and water quality and all of this. And let me see here, the last comment is that students from Ms. Laura McCreary's dual credit environmental education class demonstrated their commitment and passion for protecting our water resources by continuing to fundraise to complete a watershed project identified in the fall, which would install a rain garden at Nahant Marsh. And this is it's a pretty big deal when people are seeking me out and talking about what a great event it was, and these are farmers, and they're wanting to continue to work with us, and they appreciated Ms. McCreary's efforts and the students' efforts at getting this done. They thought it was a great beginning, and they just expressed to me that they really hope that we continue it, and they wanted to, again, appreciate all the work that went into getting that done. There's another board report I'm not going to give. Okay? All right. We'll go on to communications. So, open forum. And we have, looks like 3 open forum requests. Open forum is a time for members of the community to give input at a board meeting regarding school district issues or concerns. Individuals who want to speak should fill out an open forum request and give it to the board secretary prior to open forum. The board will not act on any issue presented during open forum if it was not published as an agenda item. The Iowa Open Meetings Law prohibits action on any issue that is not on the agenda. The president will set the amount of time allowed for individuals to speak during open forum. The board asks that no charges or complaints be made against individual employees of the district or community during open forum. Remarks that reflect negatively on the character or motives of any person will be called out of order. We'll allow 2 minutes per request. And, excuse me for a second here. We'll start with Maria Dickman, and following Maria would be Jack Ox, and then Jody Zimmerman. Go ahead, come on up, give us your name and address at the microphone.
Hi there, Maria Dickman. I live at 5916 North Linwood Avenue, Davenport, Iowa. What the state is doing to districts like Davenport should be criminal. Legislators hide behind rhetoric and try to disguise that they don't care about investing in our students anymore. While anger is directed at school boards for choosing between bad and worse, corporate handouts are being given out like candy by the legislature. Inexplicably, there isn't enough money for education after giving out giant tax breaks to multinational corporations and out-of-state landlords. It's a little-known fact that school districts in Iowa actually have their budgets set in Des Moines. Then the superintendent and board members are given the task of how to allocate the crumbs that they are allotted for per-pupil funding to operate their schools. I know there's a lot of anger and pain in this room because yet again, bad policy is having the biggest consequences on those with the least resources. I ask you to channel that anger and pain into working towards a solution, to look at who is pulling the purse strings and what can be done to fix the problem of Davenport's core neighborhoods having been neglected for decades. I ask you to rise up and find a way to make legislators in Des Moines accountable to people again. It's not something that can be fixed overnight, but with dedication, we can do what is right for our students and for our neighborhoods. If you are interested in learning more, I'll be sitting in the back and happy to talk to anyone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Maria. I don't know what that means. Okay. Jack? While Jack is handing that out, my comment was not directed at Maria Dickman. It was directed at Joe coming out here and pointing up something at me and beeping it. So I don't know what that was. So. Okay. Go ahead, Jack.
Good evening. My name is Jack Ox. I'm a teacher at West High School, and this is my 15th year teaching at West. I live at 4018 229th Street, Circle, Northport, Byron, Illinois. Tonight I want to echo these famous words. Houston, we have a problem. We have a discipline problem at West, and the problem, in my opinion, is a lack of consequences. Students are roaming the hallways, and when this happens in groups of 3 or 4, we have a problem. Please turn to page 12 of the student newspaper, and you can see a shot of students roaming the hallway. Students feel no need to follow directions of staff because they know there are no consequences, and this has resulted in unsafe working conditions for teachers and staff. The problem is starting to grow. The DEA is currently working the issue with the union members. Jody Zimmerman is here with me tonight. She has Block 3 hallway duty, and please listen to her story. So I ask you, is being late to class, skipping, and not following directions of staff an acceptable norm in our society? I think Dr. Tate had it right when he said in this article right here, high school is a preparatory foundation for what is come in life. I'm here to personally ask for help. The community, administration, teachers, staff, and parents and students need to come together to resolve this issue. West is being perceived as a bad high school, and we need to turn this around. We are a good high school with good students and good teachers. However, people are voting with their feet, and our enrollment continues to decline. Therefore, I recommend the board do the following in 30 days. 1, survey students, teachers, staff on the perception of discipline and safety at West High School. Have buy-in on the wording of the survey from the DEA. The question that I would like to see on the survey is, hey, if you were a parent, would you send your kid to West? 2, hold a town hall meeting on the subject with all stakeholders. There are a lot of smart people out there, so let's brainstorm solutions together. 3, I asked each school board director request 3 hallway videos on these dates and times and see for yourself what the hallways are like at West High School. 30 January, 13 Feb, and 6 March. And lastly, number 4, establish a school board committee to look into the discipline and consequences of all 3 high schools. Thank you for listening to me tonight, and thank you for support on this critical issue.
Go ahead, Jody.
Hello, my name is Jody Zimmerman. I live at 1428 9th Street in Moline, Illinois. I have taught social studies for 34 years in the district. Tonight, I'm asking you to reconsider the district discipline policy matrix. I am deeply concerned that an unintended consequence of the discipline policy is a growing divide between students who are there on their function and students who now believe that rules and consequences simply do not apply to them. My current duties, 3rd block, 2nd floor, walk to check for passes, help students find their way. I have been ignored and sworn at multiple times. In fact, more times this year than all my other 34 years combined. But what really alarmed me was when I came upon our police officer experiencing the same impotency. A group of very loud students were ignoring him and making phone calls and going on their way with the uniformed officer trailing behind them, repeatedly and very politely suggesting that they return to class. That is when it really dawned on me that the lack of meaningful consequences had contributed to an alarming decline in our climate that is dangerous as well as non-conducive to learning. Our administration, our security, our teachers, our staff, our students work very hard to provide quality education to each other and to themselves. It's not right that a relatively small group of people can willfully destroy the experience of the majority. Please allow meaningful consequences to return to our halls. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. And thank you, Maria and Jack and Jody for bringing these to our attention. And the board always looks forward to community input. And I do want to emphasize for a number of reasons that our community includes students as well. And I always encourage students to participate in open forum if there's something that they feel passionate about. So there's always that opportunity. Thank you very much. We'll move on to upcoming events. Director Beck, do you have those available?
I do.
Well, why don't you try to read them? We'll see if we can understand you.
Okay. Can you understand me now?
Yeah, give it a shot.
All right. March 19th to March 23rd, spring break, no classes. March 26th, 6 p.m., regular board meeting, ASC, Jim Hester Boardroom. March 27th, 5:30 p.m., LSEAC, Local School Improvement Advisory Committee, ASC, Jim Hester Boardroom. April 2nd at 5:30 p.m., a committee of the whole meeting in the ASC, Jim Hester Boardroom. April 4th at 4 p.m., the Policy Committee, ASC Executive Boardroom. April 5th at 5 p.m., the Legislative Advocacy Committee, ASC Executive Boardroom. April 9th, 6 p.m., regular meeting, ASC Jim Hester Boardroom. April 10th, from 5 to 8 p.m., the 11th Annual Taste of ProStart in the Mississippi Room at the Davenport River Center. And April 17th at 5:30 p.m., the LSEAC Local School Improvement Advisory Committee meets in the ASC Jim Hester Boardroom.
Number 6, staff reports, I've taken that off of the agenda. Next will be the consent agenda. May I have a motion?
Mr. President,
Director DeSalvo.
I move that the board approve the consent agenda as written.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Call for the vote. Director DeSalvo.
Yes.
Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Beck.
Yes.
Director Gosa.
Yes.
Director Potts. Yes. And my vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion regarding approval of bills?
Mr. President,
Director DeSalvo.
I move that the board accepts the following recommendation from the administration for adoption of the bills for the bill listing periods of February 22nd, 2018 through March 7th, 2018. Resolved, all claims presented to the board having been duly certified as correct by the secretary, reviewed by the administration and board members, and they are hereby audited and allowed as just claims and warrants drawn on the treasury for the several amounts. Further resolved, the payment of claims and salaries be approved as presented for the periods of February 22nd, 2018 through March 7th, 2018 with the following voided check. Electronic check 011440 payable to Voss Lighting in the amount of $5,358.49. It was the wrong amount.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, we'll call for the vote. Director DeSalvo.
Yes.
Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Beck.
Yes.
Director Gosa.
Yes.
Director Potts? And my vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on to superintendent report.
Thank you. Just two short reports tonight. The Davenport Community Schools highlights dated March 2nd, 2018, had an article about West speech and debate students qualifying for nationals, and says West High's Madison Cousins qualified for nationals in June for the second year in a row in informative speaking. Congratulations. You guys failed to report that. So this is the season for Creative Arts Academy to have their auditions. The students who are in the 5th grade audition in 4 categories. And I just want to show you a clip of one young lady who received her response, her letter indicating whether she'd gotten into the Creative Arts Academy or not. Joe?
And she's FaceTiming Grandma.
Yes, she is.
Okay, you got it? Hi, Grandma. Okay, get it on her.
Okay. I cry.
What does it say?
Congratulations.
Congratulations. You have been chosen to attend.
Here, I'll get it.
And that's my report.
I don't know if I can read after that. Thank you very much. Nice report. Move on to other items requiring action. May I have a motion regarding approval to extend closing on 1606 Brady Street property?
Mr. President,
Director Hayes.
I recommend that the board authorize the board president to amend the purchase of sale agreement for 1606 Brady to extend closing by 60 days.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion? Call for the vote. Director Hayes?
Yes.
Director Potts?
Yes.
Director Beck?
Yes.
Director DeSalvo?
Yes.
Director Gosa?
Yes.
And my vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. I have a motion regarding approval of bid for central partial roof replacement project.
Mr. President,
Director Hayes.
I recommend that the board approve the central partial roof replacement project, including alternate 1 for the lowest responsive bidder, Sterling Commercial Roofing, in the amount of $835,850.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion?
I got a question.
Sure. Director Gosa?
I was just curious, look at the road. That one's like when the other two are there about the. I was wondering what was.
I don't know if we could understand the question. Could you try again?
Okay, so the lowest responsibility is $850, and then the next two are a little over $400,000 away from that. So I was wondering why there was such a huge gap in price for the bids.
Well, I can't explain why there's a huge gap in price. I can say that our project manager met with representatives of Sterling Commercial Roofing, and they are comfortable with the bid that they have offered. They believe they can execute for that price.
Okay. And such a disparity in that if something got missed, but if that's what they've done, well, that's good or not.
They believe, yes, Sterling believes that they have included everything and that they're confident in their price.
But, okay, okay.
All right, any additional, Director DeSalvo?
I'm assuming this is on the older part of the school down there, or which part is this covering?
This is, well, there's several roof segments there around the old boiler room, which is a 1930s building.
Okay. And it's just that section, it's not the, any other
Right.
areas?
Well, there are several roof sections involved, but they're all
Okay.
in the
In that same
immediate
area.
vicinity
Okay,
there.
okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any additional discussion? I've got a question on this. I oftentimes wonder when we do a project like this, and it's a cost, but are there any preventive maintenance, operational expenses that are attached to this that we know about?
Generally speaking, over the life of roofs, cleaning roof drains and occasionally cleaning the roof surface itself are the only things that we would do in terms of routine maintenance, unless there's something noticed, a flashing loose or something to that effect that needed to be repaired. Ordinarily, cleaning the drains is the primary ongoing maintenance.
So, when I read this, couldn't tell. Do you know how many square feet are involved in this?
Do you, Joe? I don't.
Just guessing.
Pretty small. It's the entire boiler room. Yep. So I'm going to think maybe between 3,000 and 4,000 square feet.
So 4,000. Can't do math in my head very well anymore. Is that $200 per square? What is that in dollars per square foot?
I'd have to get the calculator.
I do too. Does anybody know? I mean, what is 835 divided by how many square feet did you say?
4,000 maybe.
4,000. Yeah, $200, huh? So, to me, that just seems like a lot of money. Does it include tear off or anything?
It
or?
includes tear off. It includes replacement of the deck. There's
Deck.
some structural repairs that are involved with it.
I'm just thinking $200 a square foot when you think about that relative to building costs. It still seems like a lot of money. If you were going to build a whole building, would you?
Yeah, something over $200 a square foot might be in an entire building. I'm not
Right.
certain on the square footage, I must say.
No, I understand. It
Um,
just seems like a
the
lot of money.
location is very inaccessible, and there is some structural repair and replacement of the roof deck, not simply the membrane. So it is a more expensive per square foot cost than we would typically see in a membrane-only replacement.
Yeah, because membranes, you just kind of roll them out and put them together and put some rock on it or whatever you do, and that's about it, right?
Yes.
So when you talked about the miscellaneous cost to clean it or whatever, I'm guessing that means like something under 10 grand per year
Oh, much less than that.
to do that.
That's actually part of the custodial duties to clean the drains, and they inspect them several times a year. And
Really?
yes.
Huh. Okay.
I have
All right.
another
Thank you. Director DeSalvo.
I have another question. I'm looking at the March 12th, 2018 revised save spreadsheet. And in the year, so for the central roof in fiscal year 2020-2021, there's $400,000. Is that in addition, obviously it's in addition to this?
Yes, we have a roof management plan that has identified every roof segment on every building and predicted when each one may need to be replaced, and we have tried to build the dollars in Save and Pepple roof roof replacement line item to match up over 6 to 10 years with the roof management plan. And then annually, we would make some adjustments to those based on what we find at that time. But it is based on a roof management plan that has assessed every roof segment in the entire district.
So this, I'm sorry, May. This 835,000, is this on the spreadsheets that we were provided? 'Cause I'm not-
Yes.
It was.
I believe you'll find it in district-wide roof replacement is the line
So
item.
not by school?
Pardon?
So, okay, so there it is, and then how come there's a 400,000 for central separate line item? Wouldn't that be in the district-wide by?
Well, because we have identified an amount for central, and in the plan, that amount is less than the total project. The balance of that comes from the district-wide line item. We have to put the two together in order to have the total amount necessary.
I'm not sure I follow you there, but we can talk about that in 2020, 2021 when that 400,000 comes up, because it's totally separate.
Right, and our best estimate is that that would be the entire amount for central in 2021, and that the other line item, district-wide roof replacement, would be other buildings that are identified in the plan, but are not called out. And ordinarily, when we have one really large one that takes up half or more of the budget, we'll identify it as a separate project. In a typical year, that district-wide roof replacement might be projects at 5 or 6 or 4 different buildings.
Okay. Okay.
So when we have one that's really large, it's identified as a separate single project. When we have 5 or 6 different roof segments at different buildings, it's the district-wide roof management plan.
So the 400,000 you're considering really large and pulled it out separate, but the 800,000 isn't really large and it was in the big chunk.
It's only after this past year, it took us 3 years to complete the district-wide roof management plan and the assessments of all the buildings. So that's only been completed in the last year, and now we're trying to reflect that in the long-range plan rather than if you go back several years in the long-range plan, it was one single line item. What I can tell you about roofs is it's over $1 million every year forever.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? What the discussion that you two were having made me think about numbers and the way that I look at things. And I was just curious whether it would make sense and whether it would be difficult, advisable, all that kind of stuff. But you probably make guesstimates all the time of what something costs.
I do.
Okay. And and so I was thinking about this, and when you said, or when the calculation was $200 per foot, and that kind of alarmed me, I would say. But what I was wondering was whether it would make sense to give us kind of a rolling average of previous costs on these types of things. So if we knew that an average roof replacement cost $80 a foot, and this one is $200, it might draw to our attention that it seems really high, but it would draw to your attention, the reasons why. And I'm not asking on it for everything, but we do look for standards. Would some average or standard cost or something for some of these make any sense at all to put on our long-range plan?
Yes, they would, and we try to base our future estimates on a square foot cost, for example.
Right.
Roofers deal in 100 square foot
Yeah,
increments.
I can imagine, but you
Um,
only got 20 here, so.
Right. This one is much more expensive than usual because there are some structural repairs. There was damage. The deck needs to be replaced entirely. And it's extremely inaccessible. This roof happens to be surrounded by all the other building. So hoisting stuff up there requires a larger crane, all of that sort of thing.
Okay, sure. Anyway, if you would just consider that as you build
Sure thing.
further long-range plans. Any other discussion? Okay, we'll call for the vote. Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Potts. Director Beck.
Yes.
Director DeSalvo.
Yes.
Director Gosa.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. I have a motion regarding approval of bid for Central Northside Masonry Project.
Mr. President,
Director DeSalvo.
I move that the board accept the administration's recommendation for the Central Northside Masonry Project, including alternate 1 to the lowest responsive bidder by State Masonry Incorporated in the amount of $333,700.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, call for the vote. Director DeSalvo.
Yes.
Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Beck.
Yes.
Director Gosa.
No.
Yes. Director Gosa's vote was no. Director Potts.
Yes.
And my vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion regarding approval of long-range facilities plan?
Mr. President,
Director Hayes.
I recommend the board approve the Save and Pepper Long Range Facility Plan updates dated March 12, 2018.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Superintendent Tate would like to make a couple of remarks before we have other discussion.
I'd just like to review the evolution of why we're here. It's on my long-range facility plan update memo dated March 9, 2018. On February 12th, we were doing the same things we are tonight, getting approval for the long-range facility plan. And the issue came up of seeing about moving the North Athletic Facility for $710,000 that was in the 1920 year to see if we could do it sooner. And so we were directed to look into that. I actually had 2 separate groups, a smaller group and then the large team that works on the long-range facility plan to look at it. And just as we were doing that, the event in Florida happened. And when that happened, I decided to accelerate about $800,000 worth of projects for our school entrance security. Our school entrances, our standard, have evolved over the years, and we have now come to a conclusion that the most robust security would be on a general school, an outside door, a door into the office, a door out of the office, all the doors going into the schools, plus making sure that all entrance to the school can be accessed by a card. So that's the project that I decided to move up. In order to do this, because it was going to take another 3 years, I had to get permission from the chief administrator of the AEA to actually declare this an emergency so that we could avoid the usual RFP process. So that will save us about 6 to 8 weeks. So this project will be brought to the board as we develop it, and the goal is to have all this done before school starts in August of this coming year. When that happened, we were not able to move up the North Athletic facility. And the way it is now on the plans that you have, the North Athletic facility would be accomplished in the 18-19 and 19-20 school year. Specifically, start in April, May of 19 and complete in August of 19. Should the board decide that they would still want to move that project up, then we have provided 3 options for you. The only 3 options that we know of, looking at our plan, that would have enough money to move that facility up. One option is to take $710,000 from the technology budget, and in each of these cases we provide you with an impact statement. Option 2 would be delay the central toilet and shower renovation, or option 3 to delay the district-wide energy efficiency measures to the tune of about $710,000. So your choice would be to, 1, accept the plan, vote on the motion as it is, or do an amendment with one of the options we provided, or 3, come up with your own option and amend the motion and vote on that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Director DeSalvo.
I have a couple of questions. So in reviewing the documents we were provided, the SAVE and PEPL spreadsheets, and the proposal that we saw tonight about the central locker room project, and I see that the central locker room project was on the documents we were provided in January and February, and even prior to that. There was $400,000 on the PEPL spreadsheet, $400,000 for 18-19 and $400,000 for 19-20. And now there's $400,000 on the SAVE spreadsheet that was not there on the spreadsheet we were provided previously this year for the central locker room. So I've been scrambling and fighting, trying to find a couple $100,000, and now this $400,000 is there. Where did that come from?
In order to come up with the projected total cost for that renovation, which is $1.2 million, there were several modifications made both in PEPL and in SAVE. As there's funding in PEPL and in SAVE for that project, it would begin in FY 18-19 and conclude in FY 19-20. So it would start in the later part of the fiscal year. And once I made adjustments to the projected ending fund balance for the prior fiscal year, the audited balances of which were provided in December, that required movement among the 2 funds to keep all of the projected projects and come up with the $800,000 for the secure entries, which would have been proposed over coming 3 years. So it was a matter of moving projects between funds and adjusting projected ending fund balances to come up with a grand total that met all of the needs, including the imperative to move up the secure entry projects and complete them starting this fiscal year and to be done by August.
So how does that have to do with the $400,000 from Central? Where that was basically the ending balance from a prior year that allowed you the additional $400,000 for 18-19 for the.
Yes, in making corrections for the actual audited ending fund balance in 16-17. We had been working with projected fund balances until we have the audit, and then we need to bring the actual audited fund balances, projected fund balances, into the model. Once we do that, then we see that the fund balances in each fund are out of balance with all of the planned projects. And in order to try to bring in the $800,000 for superintendent's recommendation to complete the secure entry automation by August, that required changes both in SAVE and PEPL.
But you added for Central. I understand. Obviously, the $800,000 that's a done deal and needs to occur. But so you brought in $800,000 and another $400,000. So you've brought in $1.2 million quickly, and I've been trying to scrape and find $200,000, and I'm struggling to understand where the additional $400,000 came from. But I'll stop there for a moment. But I do have more questions. Can you comment where we're at with the the West High lockers? Have they all been finished, or was that going to finish up this summer?
We're going to finish up most of it this summer and the balance the following year. So there is something in excess of $1 million for this summer, and then the following year would be the last phase of the west corridor locker renovations.
Because I thought at one time we were also told that project came to a halt because we ran out of money.
Yes, and it was your direction that we complete that work, that was important.
It is.
And so there were adjustments made over the past 12 months or so since we, in March and April of last year, we made major revisions to do the energy efficiency measures and defer some other projects. Since that time, we have the imperative to complete the secure entry automation, and that required moving around funds between SAVE and PEPL to come up with the projected budget amounts required, and of course the adjustment as well for ending fund balance in the current year, which is quite low. And in our discussions, and I think perhaps in the documents that you've received, you may see Marcia and I have talked about projected ending fund balances. We think should be between 5 and 15%, and that would set us a target really of 10% is what we think ought to be our projected year-end fund balances.
But is that where you said you got the additional money for Central was from the year-end balance?
From year-end fund balance, yes. Okay. And that takes it down below the 10%, certainly below 5% for the current fiscal year, coming fiscal year. And we would try to organize this plan to start to build that back up so that that would be, on the two funds combined, that would be about 1.9 million if we were carrying forward 10% of both fund balances annually. When you have decisions like you have tonight to expedite 800,000, then those funds would be available without having to affect other projects and move them to future fiscal years and all of those sorts of things. And that is our goal.
Can you comment where we're at on the Brady Street track revision?
The Brady Street track provision bid opening was last week. And all costs included, it is a little over $100,000 under budget.
And when will that project start?
In May.
Is track season over?
Yes, the day the track season, the last day of the last meet, construction starts the very next day.
Okay. I have just a couple comments if you'll bear with me. So, I prepared some statements because I'm incredibly frustrated. I just continue to battle and battle and battle for the North Project, and honestly, I'm kind of done now, I think. But every time it seems to move forward, and I go home and I'm all energized, and I get some calls, and people are happy, and then we get pushed back again. And I understand, obviously, I wholeheartedly support what we're doing for the security in our schools, but I'm struggling to understand some of the numbers you've even shared with me tonight. The Quad City Times reported after the February meeting that the North Project was moving forward. Parents and staff at North called and thanked me, but they were very skeptical because they heard this before. I assured them this project was moving forward, and now again, it's being moved back. You've just proved their skepticism and lost any confidence that they had in what the administration tells them. In December, we told you our priorities that included the long-range facility plans, which included the athletic facility. In January, we confirmed what we told you in December. In February, we told you again that the North facility was a priority. And now it takes a back seat to yet another Central project. What have we done for the other high schools? Aren't they to be equal as far as facilities? Let me share some numbers with you again. Save and PEPL dollars spent from 2015 to 2018. Central, $31,574,277.56. Mid-City, $4,202,330.35. West High School, $4,661,057.18. North High School, $1,378,302.66. You're proposing to spend another $1.2 million at Central, which is nearly all that has been spent at North in the last 3 years. Let me go back to 1999 through 2014, and this is only saved dollars. Central, $20,840,824. Mid-City, $6,966,121. West High School, $27,982,629. North, $19,507,387. These numbers should speak to the priority of projects, which is what the board has been trying to do, and you continue to change what you've told us. I keep being told that everyone has to wait their turn. There are a lot of projects on the list. How then do these central projects keep getting added? When will it be North and West and Mid-City's turn? I am beyond frustrated, and I just do not play the game well enough to get the projects permanently approved. There are 4 high schools in this city, and it's time we treated them all with the same consideration. Thank you for letting me ramble again.
Thank you very much. Is there any additional discussion? Superintendent Tate.
No one's ever lied to anybody. At the meeting on the 12th that I talked about, the board asked us to see what we could do. We did try. We're at the point tonight, the board has some decisions to make, and you can do it. And I've got to say, it's not Mr. Maloney and I who are voting, and we haven't voted all those years. There have been priorities set, and the board is in charge. I've given you some options tonight. Quite frankly, I have never heard an overwhelming feeling in the board we should do it. Maybe it is. I just haven't heard that. So we're here to do what you want us to do. That's why I provided the options.
Thank you very much. Additional discussion.
Can I ask a question?
Director Beck.
Yeah, so the way I'm reading this, we can still keep the North facility on the current schedule, right? If we choose one of these other 3 options, such as delaying the district-wide energy efficiency measures. Is that correct?
To be precise, it would be moving the North up from its current position to be done sooner.
Okay, and implement the security project.
If you took one of the options, yes.
Okay. That was my question. Thank you.
Okay. Any additional discussion?
So, do we need to make a motion?
Wait. Director Gosa? Is that you?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm just a voice in the sky. To amend to pick one of the options if we were to move that up. Is that what I'm hearing?
Hang on, Director Gosa, we can't hardly understand you. Mary's going to go see if we can clear up the communication there. While she's going back, you want to just talk real slow and maybe back up a little ways from the microphone. Maybe that'll help a little bit.
Can you hear me better
No,
now?
not really.
How about now?
Just a minute. Mary's saying something. What? Are you speaking through a speakerphone is the question.
Yes, I just turned it off though.
Yeah, can you speak directly into the phone?
Yep, that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, we'll keep trying. Okay, go ahead. Give it a shot there, Director Gosa.
Alright, thank you. My question was, if I wanted to go with one of the options, do I need to amend my motion to go to the particular option?
I caught about every other word. I'm sorry. What? The motion as it currently exists is to approve the long-range facilities plan. And so if there were an amendment, it would probably be an amendment to the original motion, or excuse me, just a minute.
Ask him to turn the volume down on his phone.
Mary's asking if you can change or turn the volume down on your phone and see if that would help. Yeah, I don't know. It's just really tough, Director Gosa. Hang on, Joe's gonna give it a look-see here. We can try that. Joe, are you getting anywhere? Talk to us again, Director Gosa. Director Gosa. Well. No, Director Gosa, Joe, Mary, you want to try and hang up and call him on a cell phone? Huh? Yeah, they'll put it on one of these somewhere. So, Director Gosa, did you hang up? No. I think that's what that's what you want him to do.
We can try this and see if it's better.
All right, Mary's going to try and call you if you can hang up, and we'll see if that's any better.
Okay.
Okay, Dan, I'm going to put my phone and I'm going to put the microphone down on, like, close to my phone. So talk and we're going to see. So go ahead and talk and we'll see how that sounds.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, that's much better.
Very good. Yeah.
Okay.
Good job, Director Gosa. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Mary. Okay, Director Gosa, go ahead.
All right, see, now I can't hear you that well now, but that's all right as long as you can hear me. My question was if I wanted to, is this the point where if I want to go with one of the options, I need to amend that motion?
It's a point at which you could, although there's probably still additional discussion. So, but
well, I'll wait and see if there's more discussion, and then I'll do it.
Okay, great. So, any additional discussion by the board? I've got a couple of things. Superintendent Tate, you talked about the AEA, and from your discussion, I just wanted to make sure, did you get approval from the chief administrator from the AEA to go ahead and do this?
Yes, I submitted the request in writing and got a reply the next day back in writing, and it's on file.
So that makes it legal to do what we're doing?
Yes.
Okay. And then I was looking at all these numbers, and normally I'm reluctant to quibble very much about priorities on the long-range facility plan. The way that I understand it, though, is that over the next 3 years we have $1.2 million dedicated to Central on the bathrooms or whatever it was, and $0.8 million approximately for North sometime in the next 3 years. Is that correct? For the sports?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So a total of about $2 million between those two projects. And I was curious, what exactly is involved in that $1.2 million of Central, let's see, I don't want to mischaracterize it. It's PE, restrooms, lockers, and showers, right?
Yes.
Okay, what does that mean? What are we doing?
The same thing we've done at West and North, which basically is to gut the space and put all new finishes and fixtures and lights.
And are the existing facilities, what's wrong with them? Why do we need to replace them?
The showers, toilet rooms, fixtures are all 30 to 40 years old. They're in very bad repair. Bathroom partitions are rusted out, missing doors, showers don't have stalls. and the finishes are worn out.
So what's that mean, finishes are worn out?
Paint, fiberglass reinforced plywood FRP, all the things that we put on the walls in toilet rooms, tile, grout, things like that. All of the toilet fixtures, the lavatory basins, things like that. Over the years, the porcelain just becomes stained and worn and in very bad condition.
So, and I can only imagine the challenges of whoever has to make these decisions on priorities. And the decisions, the way that the superintendent expressed it a few minutes ago, are not really made by you or by him. So they're made by a committee of people, I would imagine. And did the committee, do you know, did the committee get down to this level and say, it's either the north thing or it's the central thing? Is that kind of...
Absolutely. Why this and not that?
Right.
Is a standard question.
Can you express why central and not north, based on how the committee made that prioritization?
These toilet rooms, locker rooms, shower rooms serve PE and serve coaches, our athletic teams in the building and visiting teams as well. If you were to look at pictures of west, north, and central, these spaces, you would see that both north and west have virtually just far superior conditions in the PE, athletics, locker rooms, showers. They have new finishes, tile, upgraded lighting. I believe the north facility was remodeled in 2009-10. The west were remodeled the year before last. And so the ones at Central, like I said, I wasn't able to find records, but our best estimate is they're between 30 and 40 years since they were last renovated.
I don't see why not, if you have them available. Is there a way to show those?
I don't know. They are in an area in board docs that's for the board's use. They weren't posted.
Yeah, if there's no, Mary, you don't see a way to do it? Oh, you can? Oh, okay. Yeah, why don't we go ahead, we'll go ahead and try and get the pictures up. What's that?
I have another question, though.
While she's trying to do that, Mike, one of the things I was wondering, when you described some of the issues, I wondered, because some of it seems like maintenance and preventive maintenance might be sufficient. I understand, we get to a certain point and you just want to replace it. But I was curious about that, is that just a waste of money at this point to...
I don't think there's an interim measure for these particular spaces. I can tell you with certainty that if Mr. Scott were here, he would make a very strong argument in support of this needs to be done.
I understand that. And I think part of the problem is, over the last few months, as we've discussed the long-range facility plan, is the idea of when we publish this and we make promises and all of that kind of stuff. And that's, I think, part of the challenge here.
Let it be shown on record, I am the one pulling these pictures up. These weren't on here yesterday when I was looking.
Okay. All right. Mike, do you want to describe these, or how are we going to show them?
Well, these first series are pictures of the West boys and girls PE locker room, toilet shower rooms that was renovated in 15-16 or 16-17. And this is the current condition and finishes and so forth. There are individual shower stalls with curtains. There are individual toilet facilities with partitions and doors. And the finishes are all new. And if you continue to scroll down, the lights have all been upgraded to LEDs. The floors are tile and fluid applied. There are the showers. Now we're at North, and we have similar conditions to what you have seen at West. There are individual showers and toilet partitions with doors and new lockers and paint, light, and finishes. And now you're looking at Central's facility. And this is what we would call disparate conditions.
I still don't understand why we didn't hear about this before.
All right, that's it for the pictures, right? So I just want to make sure I understand it correctly, is that the superintendent and the administration have taken the position that we really need to make these changes to our secure entrances. That is that. And that's going to take, what was it? 800 grand. And we can take that money from some of these other projects, and we've got 1.2 million at Central and 800,000 at North. And there's a sense of timing on all of this. Am I characterizing that correctly? Is that that's kind of what you're presenting?
Yes, this was the consensus of the group we call the Long Range Facility Plan Leadership Team.
Okay. I think that's all I need. Is there any other discussion? Director Gosa, Director Beck, do you have any other discussion?
Sorry, this is Director Beck. I just want to confirm, we haven't talked about the option 1 or 2 that you provided us, or sorry, option 1 or 3, but it seems that the impacts of those are less than if we went with option 2. Is that correct?
I'm not sure what the different option numbers were, Director Beck, the way that you understand them. Can you express
I'm sorry,
that?
I'm looking at the document that they provided us in the memo. Option 1 was to take $710,000 from the technology budget for fiscal year 2018 and 19 and move up the North Athletic Facility. And it looks like there are a number of computers that need to be updated and Chromebooks as well. And then option 3 was to delay by 2 years the district-wide energy efficiency measures and solar installation by $710,000. And the energy savings would accrue at a deferred rate, but we would still get all the energy savings.
Okay, do you have a question, Director Beck?
I just want to confirm that those 2 options have less of an impact or have less, or what's the word I'm looking for? The impact of choosing one of those options is a little more pleasant or less unpleasant than choosing option 2, which is delaying the central toilet, shower room, locker renovation?
I don't know how to answer that, Mike or Superintendent Tate.
We have not prioritized those. We gave them to you for your discussion and determine your priorities.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Director Gosa, this is the point. If you want to make an amendment, otherwise I'm going to call for the vote on approving the plan.
So I can make my amendment now?
Sure.
I would like to amend the motion and go with option 2.
So your motion is to amend the original motion so that it would be to approve the long-range facilities plan with option 2, which would delay the central toilet and shower room, locker room renovation. And is it accurate then to say that the north project would also be implemented? Trying to read it all at the same time, but that would be started this following year or this year? Is that right, Mike?
Yes, I believe that was the intent of the option.
Okay, is that what you intend, Director Gosa?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the amendment? Director Potts.
I can't vote for that amendment. That's putting building a new building ahead of renovating showers and toilets that, you know, Anamosa's got better showers and toilets than they've got over at Central High School. And the facility at North is going to get built on schedule, on the original schedule anyway. So we're talking about building a new facility or fixing and upgrading the showers and bathrooms and facilities and the locker rooms at Central High School, that the pictures speak for themselves.
Okay, any other discussion?
I'd like to say
Okay, Director Beck.
I can't vote for this amendment either. I think option 3 would be a better option personally.
Okay, thank you. Director Gosa.
So I will say the reason I went with this option was it'll more than likely get done next year anyway, because we always seem to come up with the money for the central projects to get them done. So that's why I went with that option.
Okay, thank you. Any additional discussion? Director DeSalvo, you look like you want to talk.
Can we put another motion on the table? Okay.
No, the amendment to the original motion is on the table right now, and that motion can be approved or not. And if it's approved, then it would be put onto the original motion, and then there would be a vote on that original motion with the amendment. Any other discussion? Director DeSalvo.
I'm still struggling with what your explanation was on the $400,000 that appeared on the SAVE plan for the locker room. I want the locker rooms done. Clearly they need to be done, but I'm struggling really hard to understand how $400,000 popped into this budget within a month. And you can try to explain it to me offline. That probably would be better instead of in front of this audience, but I don't understand where that came from at all. I'm not clear on it at all, so thank you.
Happy to do that.
Any other discussion? Well, I gotta say, this is challenging, and gosh, it does seem like, I don't want to say that it's not a lot of money, but there is something odd about the numbers. And I'm struggling here because of one of the things that happens when I look at all of the things that we do, and I do believe that there are additional costs beyond the simple cost of building something. And so when we build something, I think that one of the things that we, the board, don't really understand is what are the maintenance costs of the building. And so, and I haven't looked at all of the things. We try to develop all these standards. How big should a classroom be? How many lumens and all that kind of stuff. But it's hard for me to understand what the like the maintenance costs are of something. And as Director Potts noted, should we build something if we haven't maintained something else? And I'm thinking, okay. But if we keep building something that needs maintenance that we don't, and then we prioritize that, we could develop an incredible imbalance in the way that we try to prioritize our projects. And it would be focused on those buildings that have the most stuff, I would think. And I think that's part of what Director DeSalvo was trying to point out, just with numbers. And that was just in Save and Pebble, not talking about operational expenses. And I don't think you're probably even prepared to talk about that, are you? Operational
That's not on the
PM.
agenda, sir.
I think I could make it part of this discussion without too much trouble. But I mean, do you have any sense for that?
Well, every square foot of new building we add is another square foot that needs to be maintained over the long term, of course.
Right. Do you know, can you just tell me offhand, how many square feet are there at Central and how many square feet are at North?
Over 200,000
At?
each. The
Okay.
addition at Central was about 77,000 square feet.
Wow. Okay.
That's an elementary school and a half.
Mm-hmm. All right. Any other discussion? Okay, we're going to call the vote on the amendment. And the amendment, let's see here. I didn't keep track. I know it was made, the motion was made by Gosa, and I think it was seconded by DeSalvo, if I, okay, thank you. So the amendment is to accept the approval of the long-range facilities plan with the option 2, which is to delay the, to delay the central toilet / shower room / locker renovation in the Pebble budget until FY 2019 and 20. Is that correct, Director Gosa?
Yes.
Okay. I'll call for the vote. Director Gosa.
Yes.
Director DeSalvo.
I can't. Yes.
Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Beck.
No.
Director Potts. And my vote is no. The motion fails. So right now we've got the original motion, which is the approval of the long-range facilities plan, is on the table. Is there any additional discussion?
Can I
Director-
make another motion?
Well, hang on. Director Potts he got in
Okay.
just ahead of you, Director Beck.
Not that you can tell because you're not here.
Sorry.
Okay, Director
If I'm
Potts.
reading this correctly on the current proposal from the administration, the facility at North would be completed by August of 19. Is that correct?
Yes.
So it would be completed in a year and a half, the whole thing would be done.
Yes, that is what's proposed.
I guess I don't see what the problem is with finishing it in August of 19.
Okay, did you want to say anything else?
No, I think that
Okay.
sums it up quite nicely.
All right. Okay, is there any additional discussion? Director Hayes. Oh, okay, I thought you were pressing your button. Any other discussion? Director Beck or Director Gosa?
No.
Okay. I do want to comment that I do believe that these long-range facility plans, my experience is that when they're there, they are a promise. And it's very, very challenging to make a change. And I think it isn't, for me, it's not quite so simple as pushing something off. I think this is a big deal, even though it's only $1 million. Director DeSalvo.
I would like to put another amendment on the table.
Go ahead.
I propose that we amend the plan to go with option 3.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, is there any discussion? Director Potts.
Do we know what because we're anticipating with the energy improvements, we're anticipating a savings in energy costs that goes into the general fund. Do we have any idea what the cost of delay might be to the general fund in the loss of the energy efficient savings that would take place during this 2-year period?
We could prepare an estimate. I would be hazarding a wild guess to put a number out there as I stand here. A range? Well,
Is it
we're
significant or
thinking,
is it,
that every $1 million invested, depending upon which investments we choose in the energy efficiency, returns about $100,000 in general fund savings.
ad infinitum?
Once those investments are made, that return is each year following, yes. The energy costs have been reduced by that amount permanently.
So do we know how much was planning to be
So
spent?
we may be deferring $70,000 for a year in energy savings. Rough numbers.
Any additional discussion? Director Hayes.
So then would this push this out to 1920 or 2021?
The completion of the energy program?
Yes.
1 year. Well, it goes on in the entire 10-year plan, but the next 3 years was where the biggest expenditures were, and the $710,000 would be hopped over to a year later than it otherwise would have been.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional discussion, Director DeSalvo?
So that project wouldn't have to come to a screeching halt. It could continue because we have money year over year budgeted for it.
Yes.
So it's not like we would totally be stopping one and replacing with another. It would just slow it down.
Yes. It would delay the implementation. The total amount next year is about 1.7 million. So if about 700,000 were delayed a year, there would still be $1 million available for the energy efficiency measures.
Didn't we at one time have 400,000 budgeted? I'm stuck on this 400,000, but we had 400,000 for 18-19, and then it got moved because it went up to 710. So is that the $400,000 that you came up with for Central? Because it was.
If you wanted to look at it that way, I think that would be fair enough.
That makes it a little clearer for me. Okay.
When we found that it was not, that the $400,000 project that was originally proposed did not meet the expectations of the athletic directors, and we proposed to raise the budget, it was necessary to move it a year. And that's the $400,000 project was proposed to be complete in FY 17-18, or by this coming August. Once the budget was increased, that moved it up a year in order for funds to be available, leaving those $400,000 in the current fiscal year behind, so to speak.
Is there any additional discussion?
Can I jump in?
Yes, Director Gosa.
I had a couple questions. So if we do the North project and the Central project, you're still doing energy efficiency fixtures in both of those projects, correct? So you'd still be saving some money on energy efficiency?
Well, the North would be an additional building, so it would be new energy cost. But yes, the Central toilet rooms would be converted to all LED lighting, and there would be energy savings included.
Okay. And then my next question is, if these locker rooms and bathrooms were in such disarray, why didn't that get done before the pool project and everything else, or get tied into that project?
They appeared in the long-range plan going back several years in a place where they currently reside. So the decision-making on the pool and auditorium actually goes to the year prior to my arrival.
Okay. I just find that upsetting that we would put something like that over something like that if clearly you had time to take pictures of it and it was in such disarray to present that tonight, but it wasn't really an issue in the years prior. That was all I was going to say.
Okay, any other discussion? Director Potts.
In a larger context, I'm a little concerned that we're slipping into a tit for tat. What we do for you, then we got to do something for you. What we do for you, we got to do something for you. And I think we run the risk of confusing wants with needs as we go down this facilities road. And I think we need to keep in mind that our priority has to be for our needs first and our wants second. And I don't think we have to do something for A because we do something for B, because we do something for C, because we do something for D, because we don't have enough money.
Okay, any other discussion? You two haven't weighed in yet. Do you have anything to say?
No.
No, oh, I'm sorry. I was looking, I'm sorry. I was asking our student board members, but I apologize, Director Beck.
Well, what don't I have an opinion on? I honestly feel like the original proposal is the best to me. I feel like any of the options that you guys would use would cut so that the North facility could be moved forward are all very important. Not that I don't support the North facility, but especially as we were going through like the central bathrooms, I remember when the West bathrooms were done. And I remember walking through the doors on the first day of swim practice, and flipping out because the entire team, we didn't realize that was happening, and then we walked in the locker room and it was the best thing that we had ever seen. So I feel like these are all necessary factors, and all necessary projects that you guys need to consider. But it's also your decision, but it's a huge responsibility, and I don't envy you, because there's no right answer. So really that's my opinion. I feel like the committee that put the original proposal together also understood the weight of what they were doing and why they were prioritizing what they were. And there's a certain element of trust that you guys have towards them, respect that you guys have towards them, to let them take this over. As was said at the beginning of the presentation, you guys could pick any of these options, or you could pick none of these options and make up your own thing. But you trusted them to present you with these choices. So really, I think you have to trust them.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? I've got a few things here. One of the things, of course, that I've talked about before and that I'm strongly in favor of is trying to reduce any changes in dollars that affect employees. And so if we accept this existing amendment that's on the table, which is to delay by 2 years the district-wide energy savings, and if we delay that, and Mike, you said that'd be around $700,000 per year, is that right?
If we took 700,000 now to advance the north, that would defer as much as 70,000 per year the following year.
Per year for 2 years, according to the option. The option says delay it for 2 years.
Yes.
So it'd be, and rough numbers, I don't know what it works out to, but I was guessing it's between 1 and 2 employees that, for instance, that 70,000 represents to me is that the savings, if we were to invest in the energy savings, and it equates to $70,000 per year, I say that's 1 or 1.5 employees that we can continue to pay. Does that make any sense at all?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if it does to the rest of the board or not. One of the things, when you were talking about, Mike, and delay of the energy efficiency measures, I suspect is going to result in additional costs that we can't even think of yet, because as I believe the federal credits, state credits for some of these, and even the rebates, I think, have decreased just within the last year, haven't they, on light bulbs and things like that?
Yes, the light bulb replacement rebate is half what it was
Right.
the previous fiscal year.
And so I think that those are additional expenses that we could calculate and guesstimate and all that stuff. But I think that they are additional costs to the district that we can't even anticipate here. So I mean, one of the things I was curious about, I was thinking about the 2 additional lanes that we authorized some months back on the Brady Street Stadium project. And that was around $500,000, if I recall, for those 2 additional tracks. That's approved. And I thought about even the discussion back then, and Director Potts when he's talking about needs and wants, and you could characterize that any way you want, whether it's a need or a want. But that $500,000 that we said, and I don't remember if we did it with respect to that project or with respect to the long-range facilities plan during the vote. Do you recall?
Well, ultimately, it's both.
Okay. And where is that project right now?
It's scheduled for award of bid next board meeting.
Okay. And then one other question I had was, if the North project and the Central project had kind of equal weighting, is there a way to, instead of saying we got to do this now and we got to do this now, is there a way to say, oh, we want to do both of them, it's just going to take an extra year to complete both of them? Is that reasonable, or is that just nonsensical?
I think that that's what we have proposed.
But I think you've delayed the start of the North project. I'm saying if you started them both.
We have failed to speed up the start. You see, rather than say we have delayed it a year, I'm saying we've been attempting to move it up to get it done this fiscal year.
Right, and I thought that had already been suggested by the administration. I thought maybe
Your
I'm mistaken.
request to us was to go and determine if it were possible and reasonable to move it up into the
And you're
start
saying no?
I think we're saying it's possible, but we don't think that it's really reasonable.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, the amendment on the table is to accept the amendment, which is option 3, which is to delay by 2 years the district-wide energy efficiency measures and solar array installation by $710,000 in FY 2018-19. The total for these two projects, well, I think the rest is just explanation. So the amendment is to delay by 2 years the district-wide energy efficiency measures and solar array installation by $710,000 in 2018-19. And excuse me, let me try to get my paperwork cleaned up here. The motion was made by DeSalvo, and it was seconded by Hayes, and okay, we'll call for the vote. Director DeSalvo.
Why am I always first?
You are.
Yes.
Okay. Director Hayes?
No.
Director Potts?
No.
Director Beck?
No.
Director Gosa?
Yes.
And my vote is no. The motion fails, so that amendment fails, and we have left on the table the original motion, which is to approve the long-range facilities plan as presented. Is there any additional discussion? Director DeSalvo.
I just want to clarify one thing, that we had multiple discussions about this, and it wasn't that we were trying to we have to forego something. These decisions are incredibly difficult. But it was, we were told we'll try to move it up, and shame on many of us for thinking that was a reality. Trying to make the right choices up here is so hard when you're looking at restrooms that look horrible. And I wholeheartedly think the central stuff needs to be done. But I will go back to something Director Potts said about making things equal. And this is sticking in my mind because Rob Scott said it to me, that we have to try to keep things equal. We're trying to keep everything equal. And that's the only reason that that comment was made, Director Potts, was because we've been told that, I think probably even before your time, that we were trying to make things equal. Yeah, before your time on the board.
Oh, okay.
So I appreciate the discussions. We will look forward to a wonderful project coming to North, and I would like it on record that it's coming next August of 2019. Can I please have a firm date? And we have the media. Please put that on record so that we have it. It's not going to get moved again. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Any additional discussion? I'll just say you never know. Okay, I'm going to call for the vote quick. Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Beck.
Yes.
And I want to clarify, this is a vote on the original motion, which is to approve the long-range facilities plan as presented and not including any additional options. And that Director Hayes and Director Beck, you understood that when you voted? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Director DeSalvo.
No. There you go. I got my no in.
Director Gosa.
No.
Director Potts.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you.
That was easy.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. We have approval of policies, and then we have discussion items. I'd like to deal with the approval of policies, which is the last item for approval, and then we'll take a short recess, and then we'll continue with our discussion items. Director Beck, if you're out of town, do you want to lead us? Oh, excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry. It's going to be led by Director Hayes. Is that correct,
Right.
Director Beck? Okay, thank you. May I have a motion regarding approval of policies?
Mr. President,
Director Hayes.
I move that the board accepts the policies as, there's a little bit of discussion behind them, but as we have them here, and go through each one of them individually.
Your choice. You should probably at least list them.
Okay, we'll have actions for policy number 30501, School Food Service Program, 50110, Home Instruction, 30107, Transfer of Inactive Funds, 30201, Handling of Cash and Other Funds Received, 30207, Lease and Rental of Property, 30208, Gifts, Grants, and Bequests, 30210, Sale of Bonds, 30212, Depository of Funds, 30213, Anticipatory Warrants, 30214, Loan Agreements, Voter Approved Physical Plant and Equipment Levy, 30215, Electronic Funds Transfer, 30217, Investments, 30206, Disposition of Obsolete Equipment and Supplies, 30302, Opening of Bids, 30303, Capital Assets, 30306, Receiving Supplies and Equipment, 30309, Payroll, 30311, Employee Travel Compensation, 30312, Unpaid Warrants, 30315, Signing Contracts, 30401, Financial Accounting System, 30402, Treasurer's Annual Report, 30403, Secretary's Monthly Report, 30404, Resolution of Payment of Bills, 30405, Publications of Annual Listing of Salaries, 30406, audits, 30407, inventory, 30409, school credit cards, 30410, GASB 54, 40136, safety policy, and 40133, use of protective equipment, which has been deleted.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion? So the motion is to approve all of these in one motion, right, Director Hayes?
Yes, unless there's some discussion.
Okay, so if there's no discussion, and Director Beck, Director Gosa, you don't have any?
No.
Okay. I had one question on, let me get to it here. It had to do with home instruction, and so Director DeSalvo, why don't you go ahead and talk about it?
I read this
It's 501.10. It's the second policy that's presented.
You said 501?
No, I'm sorry. It's second policy that was presented.
Was this all new?
Actually, for
No.
There was nothing struck in it, though, so I wasn't sure what it said.
Allison, or Director Beck, are you speaking or am I speaking?
Go ahead, Linda.
Okay, with this one, it was completely revised. Wendy Meyer went over it and just kind of wordsmithed it and rewritten it, rewrote it.
Okay. So, do you want me just to read it?
You want me to read it?
It's up to you. I don't know where you're going.
There was nothing struck in the whole thing, so I wasn't sure if it was the
No,
same or brand new.
The
but it sounds like it
discussion
was
was
totally replaced.
making the difference, clarifying the difference between expelled students and students that were home for
Unable to-
illness,
sure.
unable to
Okay.
attend.
I have no other questions then.
Sure, go ahead.
I thought it was all brand new.
Oh, okay.
Because there was nothing struck in, or I thought it was existing, because nothing in the document was struck to replace something.
Right, it was
So
just clarification between the two.
Thank you.
And so could you express that clarification?
With the clarification, we discussed the, for the expelled students, with or without services, versus the students that are home ill, that cannot attend school.
Right, so you're saying home instruction here is for students that
Students
are
that are ill.
ill or something. Okay,
Yes.
thank you. That's all I needed. Any other discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote. Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Potts.
Yes.
Director Beck.
Yes.
Director DeSalvo.
Yes.
Director Gosa.
Yes.
Okay, my vote is yes. Motion carries. We'll go ahead and have a 5-minute recess. And Director Beck and Director Gosa, I hope you'll stay with us for the discussion items. Will you two both be able to stay with us?
Yes.
Okay, we'll be a few minutes. Thank you. All right, are all board members back at the table? Just about. Who are we missing? One, two. No, Director Potts is here. I think we can go ahead and get started. The first discussion item is student-led walkouts. And Superintendent Tate, do you want to take the lead on that discussion?
No, I don't have anything to add to that.
All right.
I think as a board.
Then I'll open it up to the board. Are there is there any discussion? And there may be, especially by our student board members as well. Any discussion? Director DeSalvo.
I'm treading lightly here. I support student voices. I think, however, methods, as long as it's safe and not threatening, they have the right to conduct themselves in an orderly manner, to approach something that they are passionate about, and I would support that. All those things being said, I think you have the right to stand up for what you believe in, as long as it's respectful, as long as it doesn't hurt anyone, as long as it's safe and it's not illegal.
Any other discussion? Director Hayes.
I too support peaceful demonstrations. However, is tomorrow the day?
It's Wednesday. I
Wednesday?
misspoke. You are the 5th person to correct me.
Okay, thank you. So can you explain what exactly does this entail? Do you know what the plans are?
So the students are walking out at 10 a.m., which is in the middle of second block, right? Middle of second block.
That's in the middle of Falcon Flex.
Falcon Flex
it is-
period
it
and
is
into
essentially
second
our
block. And then once we're outside, there'll be 17 minutes of silence for the 17 victims in Florida, and then 12 minutes of speeches, I believe. And then we've been told that if we re-enter the building and go back to class, then that will be an excused absence. And so we'll just return to school like normal, and that's what's happening nationally, I believe, is the
I'm not
kind of
certain.
consensus, is what I've heard. So we'll be outside the building for 40 minutes and then returning to class.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But before you do, where did you get that understanding, Madison?
Just by word of mouth from other students. Since it's not like a school-sponsored event, we can't do anything over the announcements. We can't go around and talk in classes or anything like that. So everything that we know is by either social media or because kids talk about it in class. So that's kind of been what I've gathered. I don't know if it's correct or not, honestly. I know that the first part is correct. 17 minutes of silence, at least 12 minutes of speeches. And I don't really know how the going back to school thing is going to work, but I plan to figure it out tomorrow.
So I'm going to ask the superintendent to either read or characterize his position, because this, if it's word of mouth, it's interesting that would be the way that we would do it. And I don't know how you limit speeches to 12 minutes after what we went through here. Yeah. But Superintendent Tate, if you wouldn't mind expressing your position on this, I think it would help us clarify our discussion.
And it's not my position. I spent a lot of time with both the high school principals and the intermediate principals to talk about this. I mean, and I have provided guidelines. Essentially, it says district and high school administration do not promote walking out from class. However, we will not prevent students from conducting an event that follows certain guidelines. And it talks about being respectful. It talks about coming back after you've left class. It talks about if you leave class, you're going to have to be indicated unexcused, because we have the responsibility to know where students are.
Okay.
But there won't be any consequences for having done that, providing you come back to school. So, I mean, I think it's respectful on both levels. This is a student-led event, and I think they should lead it and work it however they want to. Our caution, our worry is once you get outside, that there's no counter-revolution, because there could be. So we will have administration at least watching and nearby in case something happens. And we've suggested that the student groups really talk to principals and make sure there's some coordination here if you want to. It's a little bit different in intermediates because of the maturity level, and we're not letting them walk out of the classroom. If they have other thoughts or plans, they can work with their principals and work something out. There's a lot of options for the intermediate. I don't know if there's anything planned or not. Again, it's really up to the students. So in a nutshell, that's it.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? Director Beck, you were the one that requested this discussion item, I think. Do you have anything to talk more to say?
I think it's good that we are allowing the students to assert their right to peacefully protest, and as long as protests are orderly and respectful on both sides, great.
Okay, is that it? Any other discussion?
Nope.
So I'm a little concerned. There are things I don't quite understand. And I'm not sure, Director Beck, when you talk about on both sides, because it doesn't sound like there's more than one side, is there, Madison?
What do you mean more than one side?
I mean, Director Beck.
Oh, I meant administration and teachers versus the students. As long as the students are respectful of school administration and staff, and the staff and administration allow the students to express their right to peacefully protest.
Well, and I guess I just want to be really, really careful when you use the words right to peaceful protest. If we say that that's a right, I believe then that could lead to, if we say it's a right, they could go ahead and walk out anytime, any day. And
I believe there was a constitutional, like a Supreme Court case that upheld students' right to protest.
it's a constitutional right to not go to school. I think the schools, I mean, if you want to get into that, Director Beck, I believe that schools have a responsibility to teach students. And
No, not a constitutional right. There was a Supreme Court case that upheld students' right to peacefully protest.
And if we're going to get into a legal argument, I mean, are you saying then that a student theoretically could just, they have the right to peaceful protest anytime they feel like? Is that what you're saying?
No,
I haven't read
I
Tinker
think
in
you're
several
reading
years.
too much more into my comments. I didn't prepare a statement, so I'm probably not being as eloquent as I would like to be.
It just concerns me when we say that it's a right that students have.
Okay, then I will take back that word. I rescind that word. I'm glad that we are listening to the students and we're letting them use their voices to be heard.
And I support that. I think it's appropriate. One of the things that I am a little concerned with still, and I'm going back to you, Madison, you said 17 minutes of silent protest and then up to 12 minutes of discussion, I think is how you described it.
I don't think it's okay. I should have started with saying this is one of the few political issues that I did not help organize within the Davenport Community School District. So I actually know about as much as the average student, if not less. I believe that it is 17 minutes of silent protest to start with, and then the 12 minutes of speeches by leadership to follow what some of the proceedings that happened in Florida immediately after the shootings. I agree that 12 minutes is pretty short, so I don't know if we're going to stick to that time frame. I don't know. But I believe the plan was to have leadership speak and that be it. Leadership being the kids that organized the event.
So would there be leadership students at each facility? Is that what you're saying? That's what you believe?
Yes.
And I'm just wondering if it goes on for an hour. I mean, at what point is it too long?
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know either, and I don't know if any of us know. 'Cause it could go for the whole rest of the day, theoretically. And that would be, I think that would be unfortunate. I don't know how the administration would react to something like that. Director DeSalvo.
I would just say to the students, be smart and be wise in the choices that you make so that you don't wreck an opportunity, and share that with your groups, because that's very important. I think perhaps where you're headed to, that unfortunately this is something that's happened in our world. We hope it doesn't happen again, but be very wise in the choices that you make with this opportunity.
I think that was part of the point of having the event be brief, to have it be to the point. So that was the point of only having 12 minutes of speech, was so that we didn't start to ramble on and kind of wear out the issue.
Okay, any additional discussion? All right. I think Director DeSalvo's comments are right on, and I hope it is a great event that's very respectful all the way around. Do you know, is there a specific topic in the comments that's going to, is there a protest or is it just comments?
I don't know.
From what I've heard by word of mouth, I've heard that it was originally against gun violence. However, they changed it to school safety. These are only from a few students that I've heard. I can't confirm anything. I can't deny anything. So just again, by word of mouth.
Okay. Well, I'm really glad you two are here. Thank you very much for helping us understand. Any other discussion on this? All right. We'll move into solar projects. Superintendent Tate.
We have a memo by Mr. Maloney about a request for proposals, and Mr. Maloney, why don't you give a general rundown of where we are?
One of the things we've learned from the most recent request for proposals, I've provided you an outline of exactly how we went about that. We created a rubric to evaluate the proposals submitted, looking at several areas of their proposals, including the firm's background and experience, the project team they proposed, any apparent conflicts of interest, local government, PPA experience, projected dollar savings to the district, quality of proposed equipment, their safety program and experience modification rating, the overall quality of their proposal, and any perceived risks in their proposal that the evaluation committee perceived. The evaluators were myself, Joe Reagan, Eric Page, Debbie Heitman, all district employees, Brady Kakert, who is sitting in the back, who's a Central High School student who has been following our solar project for the past 2 years, and asked if he might learn more about the project, and we invited him to participate in the evaluations. And we've arranged with the staff at Central for that to be an extra credit project, but Brady doesn't need extra credit. So we want to thank him for his participation, and we still have some work to do. We also had Matt Collier, an electrical project engineer with IMEG Engineers, particularly helped with the assessment of the quality of equipment proposed and so forth. The 5 firms proposing Atwood Electric, Iowa Wind and Solar, Northwest Mechanical / EPO Energy, Tri-City Electric, Train, Eagle Point Energy Partnership, and Moxie Solar. We evaluated them on a rubric, and they were very closely rated in terms of points earned in that rubric. Each of the firms we've determined is capable of performing as they have proposed. However, the financial calculations are really complex and difficult and somewhat of a moving target. Mid-American Energy has recently proposed a change to the EECR, the Energy Efficiency Cost Recovery Program, that would lower the amount charged by Mid-American for that program, and that program provides some of the funds that create the fund that is used for rebates and incentives and so forth. So there are some proposed changes to that upcoming that would lower Mid-American's rates. Mid-American has also in the process of considering a rate reduction that's related to the federal income tax program. Of course, they will have some federal tax cuts. Some IUB members have suggested that Mid-American should adjust its rates downward to reflect the tax savings that they might accrue. That, of course, is complicated. It is not a pending rate case before the IUB. Mid-American, on the Illinois side, has made a reduction in their rates related to the federal tax bill, but we are told that we should not anticipate that any reduction that might actually occur on the Iowa side is the same as or similar to Illinois. Circumstances are different. The result of all of our analysis is that we think we're going to need to do a little more work fine-tuning with the proposers so we understand more precisely their proposals. So we're going to have to meet with each firm and really drill down to see what projected savings might be. But it appears that we may end up with one or even more PPAs, provided that we satisfy ourselves that the savings outweigh the risks. There are not huge savings to be had in the near term from PPAs. In the long term, there are quite large savings after the PPA is paid off. In the shorter term, we would share in a portion of the savings generated by having the solar array. So the question for us becomes, is the risk over the 20-year, and there was a 25 and a 30-year proposal thrown in there. We put this RFP out in a manner that allowed wide latitude for what might be proposed, thinking we'll let the market tell us what they think they can do. We got 5 very different proposals, making evaluation of them much more difficult because they aren't all proposing precisely the same thing. We think that we may likely get to a recommendation for a PPA in some form, and that, of course, would come to you in the coming weeks. It may be with one or it may be with more of the firms. We also have concluded and reflected in the long-range plan that it's going to make sense for the district to buy arrays outright and just pay out of capital in order to get those built and get the 100% of the general fund savings would accrue first year that they're in operation, and that's what we have recommended. We have yet to develop the particular projects. There were proposals by a couple of the firms to sell us arrays outright. There'll take a lot of analysis to determine whether those are the right ones and the doable ones, but our proposal right now, our direction, is to go fine-tune the PPA proposals. We believe that that will result in one or more of them brought to the board for consideration of approval, and that we should begin next fiscal year with the purchase of solar arrays, and that would be a new endeavor. So far we've been working on the PPA approach. So we think at this point it will end up being a combination of the two, but of course both of those projects, the outright purchase and installation and ownership of an array at a site or 2 sites or 3 sites, we'll bring back to you when we have finished that work, and the same can be said of the PPA approach. We will fine-tune. We believe we will get to a recommendation for a PPA, but it will have to show us some significant savings annually, and we'll have to be satisfied that the risk of a 20-year agreement is worth the savings projected. As before, our account rep, Derek Hoffer at Mid-American, is working with us. We have not had the assistance of John Muller in this round. He is one of the firms is a client of Iowa School Finance at the moment, so we've not been able to take advantage of John's expertise. So that's what we had to present to you tonight, is that we think that we are close to a PPA, but we also think that purchasing outright and installing solar arrays will be a part of the solution. And that's all I have to present. Happy to
Okay.
hear your questions.
Sure, thank you. Any discussion? Director DeSalvo.
I just have a couple things that I would like to see from you when we get these agreements. Location of these panels is very important to me. As I voiced previously, I do not want them to take green space away from our playgrounds and our backyards on our school grounds. That's very important to me. I have concerns about the rooftop too, so I struggle with where you're going to put them. Location is obviously very key, but we're putting a new roof on Central, and then are we going to go put some solar arrays on top of that brand new roof? I have concerns with those things. I would like that to be considered.
Our thinking at the moment is that ground mounted makes the most sense, that the complications and the additional cost for roof mounts makes them much more difficult. Don't know that there might be roof mounted, but the inclination at the moment is probably not. So we would be working with building principals, with the athletic director, the Y, City Parks and Rec, all of the people who have soccer and baseball and things like that on our play fields will all be in the discussion about what would be the impacts of a ground-mounted array at this site in this location.
Thank you for that. I would also like, when we get these proposals by building, I'm very curious about, I'm a numbers person, as you can tell. I was throwing numbers out tonight and I study this stuff. And I would really like to know building by building. So let's say it makes most sense to do 5 buildings versus 33 or something like that. I would like to know, building by building, our costs, our projected savings. So how is this going to work building by building? I've seen numbers as a whole, kind of very high level, but to me that's very important. And I take that back to other projects that, didn't perhaps go as expected. And so that's going to help me make decisions in this project, this very large, very expensive project that I need to see the numbers and they need to be concrete. And I would like them building by building, not as a whole. I do believe that Mid-American can provide usage by building. I know they can.
Part of the complexity of the analysis is that we have to do the 20-year projections meter by meter.
Right.
Each building may have more than one meter.
Right.
The meters may not all be on the same tariff.
Exactly.
And so that really makes the analysis more complex and time consuming. And then when we have things, once we've finished a round of analysis and Mid-American says, well, we're going to lower the EECR.
Exactly.
We go, oh, now we have to redo all of that work.
It's very complex. And I think in making this big decision, we need to be very strategic in what we do. And those numbers are really going to help us make those good decisions for our taxpayers. And to me, that's incredibly important. So any data that you can get would be most
Yes, it
appreciated.
is being done meter by meter, site by site.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Director Beck or Director Gosa, anything?
No.
Okay. I've just got a couple of comments. It's interesting when you look at kind of PPA, kind of purchase, and you've described the purchase as being the better option, generally speaking, right?
The complexities, the risk, and the length of the term of the PPAs compared to the board's priority to generate general fund savings immediately. We give up some capital dollars that might be used elsewhere. Now, they are already allocated to energy in the long-range plan, but it was that old discussion about the ROI on this investment versus that investment. We're making very good progress on the retro commissioning work, on the incentives and rebates work that we described last year, and have a much better understanding of what the returns are on those, which are good, and progress is good. And as the incentives change and are projected to continue to change, it's our conclusion that the outright purchase of some arrays, in order to generate 100% of the energy savings immediately, is a sensible part of the mix.
And I can imagine the challenge in trying to figure all that out. And so I'm curious in these proposals, because it sounded like you're also saying the PPA is a nice approach in the beginning, but you want to be able to purchase down the road. Is kind of how I interpreted what you were saying.
Well, both. The advantage of the PPA, of course, is you get some savings instantly
Right.
with no capital investment. The advantage of the outright ownership is you get 100% of the savings instantly, but you give up capital that might be used elsewhere. And you've already discussed there are plenty of elsewheres to direct capital dollars.
I was wondering if there's a way, we've talked about the value of different dollars in different ways. And I always am looking at that general budget dollar and what it's used for. And the PPA, yeah, it's kind of nice because no capital involved, right? But there are operational costs or not?
Not during the course of the PPA. The
Okay.
operational costs are the responsibility of the proposer.
And then when Director DeSalvo was talking about the value of green space and the value of roof space, and I wondered, earlier a conversation about the cost of replacing a roof at $200 a foot, and those panels are, what are they, 8 square feet, something like that?
Each.
Each? I'm just guessing.
Yeah, something to that effect, yes.
So that would be that'd be $1,600 of roof per panel. Kind of. I mean, at least they're
Yeah, not a
central.
direct relationship.
I
but
understand it's not direct.
One of the proposals, I should say, includes the removal and replacement cost for re-roof. It's an all-in, all expenses are on the proposer. Of course, their kilowatt hour price is a little higher in order to do that, but it's like we put the removal and replacement at re-roof into our cost. And so another proposer doesn't have that. Some are all ground mounted, but I just wanted to point out that one of the proposals says that risk of removal and replacement of the arrays at re-roof is embedded in our cost. That's not the district's concern. It's in the rate.
When do you think you'll be ready to recommend something?
Well, I think each of the 5 firms will need to have an opportunity to come in and spend an hour or more with us to fully explain all of the loose ends or things we don't quite understand exactly and fine-tune things. That will be at least a month, I would say. With all the other things we do, that would be, I think, at least a month, yes.
So just looking at these numbers, I mean, those numbers are really close, the way that your raw aggregate scores are put. I mean, 4 of them are probably statistically the same, and one of them is not quite 10% better, if you would describe it that way, right?
Yes, and the highest scoring one was a very large document. It was complete.
Uh-huh.
And the ones that were just a little bit lower and all grouped together just had a little bit less meat on the bones.
I think the last comment I would say is that I hope that there's a way for us as a district to make a decision. I think a year or two ago we kind of set it aside, and I know we can't force the hand of future boards, and everything's in flux right now the way I see it, and there might be savings here that you're talking about, especially in the general fund, maybe, right?
I think savings are certain that if you purchase a raise, you get general fund savings as soon as they go into production. With the PPAs, we wouldn't recommend one if there weren't general fund savings, but they're smaller amounts
All right.
until the PPA is concluded.
Okay, all right. I don't think I have anything else. Anybody else? Director DeSalvo.
Just one other thing in the proposals that I'm hoping is there is, you said there would be no cost to us. So we have to have security. We're going to have to build fences if they're ground mounts. You know, we've got to keep them secure. So I'm assuming that would be included in their costs. Keeping the grass cut around these things, that still would be ours, but would be less grass to cut, perhaps, if there was an array taking up
Those are the
space.
kinds of things that have to be worked out. Some may not have grass, have a gravel field under the array, for example.
Okay.
Those are exactly the kind of details that have to be worked out. But with the PPA approach, the idea is it's all costs into the proposer. The district has no upfront cost.
Right. So I just, maintenance and general ongoing upkeep of these is something that I would also like information on when we get proposals or whatever we hear from you. That is something that I
Yes,
would
in the
like to.
proposals, they have each described what the annual maintenance effort is, and at the end of the 20 years, what the annual maintenance effort the district would need to pick up has been projected.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any more discussion? All right, thank you very much, Mr. Maloney. We'll move on to budget reduction. Superintendent Tate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Several layers of budgets. Tomorrow, the president, the chief financial officer, and I go to the school budget review committee, and we will be presenting our Vision 2020 plan, the 6-year plan that the board is sending us with. Part of that plan and the requirement that we had to come back, we met with them in December of 17, is to show a positive unspent balance by June 30th, 2019. So the 18-19 budget that is up on your screen right now is the start of that. And as you recollect, on March 26th, Marcia will be providing you with our annual budget update, very complicated briefing, but also talks about the levy and reminding you that you're going to have to approve that the first business meeting in April. So the 26th is the time we'll get really delving into the levy portion of the budget. Part of the interest is in the future budgets in 1920. We talked about last time, and I like to review it each time we're together, how you close a school, because in 1920 we do have on the docket moving Monroe to the SMART facility and moving the 7th and 8th grade out of SMART into other intermediate schools. I'm preparing a timeline to the board. That's the first requirement of the policy, is to actually provide you a timeline which shows every meeting that we're required to have, the exact time in between those meetings, the sort of documentation that's available at the time, the letters that have to be sent out to the losing and the receiving schools. And so I'll provide that timeline to you on March 26th. It does take public forums, and generally right now the timeline shows that we have some public forums, not necessarily required by the policy, beginning in May and June. And then we have a public forum required by the policy when you get into the process of looking at the information provided by the administration and actually beginning to decide and make a decision about whether you're going to close a school or not. Reminder that it's going to take 3 votes to do that, and the timeline will show that happening sometime by the end of September. You have to do it by the second Monday of October, but I'm trying to move that up into September. And again, I'll keep everybody informed about that as we go down the line, but it will have some pretty serious meetings probably in the May time frame after we put our current budget to to bed, where we'll start providing the information to the board. You can analyze it, you can ask us questions, send us back for additional information. So I don't know if you have any questions on the 18-19 budget, or back to the Vision 2020, or what's happening at the SBRC tomorrow.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Director DeSalvo.
I had asked some questions at our committee of the whole meeting about the students that we had moved from JB Young down to Smart and who could possibly be relocated again. And I didn't know if that's going to be a difficult number to get to, but I wondered if that would be something available to us before we go to the forums in May.
Not difficult to get, but I'd rather do it all at one time. I'd rather show how it looks for Sudlow and
Sure.
Williams also, so
Sure.
we're not just favoring one school. So again, what I'd like to do is provide all the information to the board at one time. We had several other questions,
Okay.
and also provide it to the public at the same
Sure.
time.
Thank you.
So we're recording all of your questions. We're not going to forget them.
Any other discussion? Madison.
Dr. Tate, I don't know if I heard you correctly or if this relates at all to what we've done for funding equality, but did you say that the Budget Review Committee asked for a positive unspent balance, meaning that we wouldn't spend everything that we have? Am I hearing that? Like, when you say positive unspent balance, what do you mean?
Well, right now we have a negative unspent balance, and that's why we go before the School Budget Review Committee. Part of that is the fact that I took $2.7 million out of the reserve, as I promised I would, and the other is that we overspent to do that. So we're looking at correcting that by over $4 million. So what they're saying is that we have to make up that $4 million and make sure that our operations are positive and not negative. So that's why this year we're looking at $9 million as an example, and why our 2020 plan shows, again, a positive balance by June 30th, 2019, and then every year after that.
Okay.
And gosh, we just got $5 more per student, so hey.
No, I agree. I'm equally frustrated that we are suffering because of an inequality that was not our fault. So
Here's a figure.
that's all I wanted to say.
I asked Marcia to come up and give me a date and tell me how many million we've cut in this time. So she started with 2001. We've cut $42 million out of our budget in that time. Guess how much we would have got if we were getting the same as every other district in the state? $44 million. And I'm telling the SBRC that tomorrow. It's kind of my speech.
Did you have any more, Madison?
No, that was all. I just wanted to clarify that the inequality was causing this large conversation that we're having.
Thank you for your questions. Any other discussion? Director Beck, Director Gosa, anything?
No, thank you.
Director Gosa, you still there?
Yeah, I asked my questions at the committee of the whole, so hopefully they'll get answered when he does his presentation for everything.
Okay. All right, then we'll move on to policies. Who's going to lead that discussion?
I believe Director Hayes.
Okay.
We'll start with 30101. It was reviewed by Marcia for the budget responsibilities, and there were no recommended changes. Well, there are two stricken things on here. It says no recommended changes, but there's superintendent or designee was added, and that was mainly because it stayed in line with how we set the wording for most of our other item. Since Dr. Tate can't do it all, he can designate who can do it in his behalf if necessary. Publications for, did you have something to add, Director Beck?
Yes, I was just going to say, I believe the section that was stricken at the bottom, the explanatory section, we've never actually done this before. And so we were asked to consider whether we want to keep that language in there.
Okay, thank you. And just right up under the publications for public review, it was also stricken by at least 20 days, because that's also something that we've not done. Moving down to physical plant and equipment fund, it was reworded. We took out all liability, insurance premiums, errors and omissions, insurance premiums, worker compensation, insurance premiums, unemployment, insurance claims and premiums, administration costs associated with unemployment, compensation, and early retirement benefits, and that was reworded to unemployment benefits, early retirement benefits, insurance agreements, and cost of liability insurance and judgments or settlements relating to liability. In 20101, this was one that was just left over from the 200 series, and the word desired qualifications, it's not necessarily desired, it's mandated, so we took that out. For job goals is by maximizing and within support, by maximizing the support and resources of the community. The superintendent will lead the staff in providing the fullest educational opportunity for each student. So we took out within and just replaced that. For business and finances, we added a sixth item to develop for presentation to the board a long-range fiscal plan, and removed and 5-year fiscal plan, which reflects the board direction because we have the 10-year plan, so we removed the 5-year. For terms of employment, we have 12-month year versus the 4-week annual vacation. In 30301, business operations, we capitalize I in the it there, and pursuant to state and federal regulations. The next paragraph was stricken since it was an administrative regulation. We didn't think that was necessary. And these were in line with the code, correct, Marcia? All these were in line with the code. That's why that was removed. In the next paragraph, we had district proposals in quotes versus state. In the next paragraph there, all sealed proposals, quotes, and bids. And in the last sentence of that, offers. In the next paragraph, that the award is not in the best interest of the district. And district staff should refer to district purchasing procedures prior to soliciting for proposals, quotes, or bids. And we remove quotations. And all of these changes were basically in line with the actual codes as they are today. Any questions?
Okay, well, looks like we're done with that then, right?
Done, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll move on to administrative reports.
None.
Are there any board requests? I haven't seen any tonight. Director Beck, Director Gosa, do either of you have a board request?
Nope.
Okay. All right, then I will ask for a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
This meeting is
Aye.
adjourned. Thank you.